You're watching West Hartford Community Television.
You're watching West Hartford Community Television.
For the community, by the community.
Thanks for joining us on Two Guys and a Lot of Wine. I'm Bobby P.
And I'm James Kimbrough.
And Jim, summer is in full swing. I'm tan, you're looking good, and it's time for more white summer sippers.
Yeah, tonight we're going to talk about some obscure white varietals. These are varietals you typically don't find in the wine store, or they kind of get crowded out by all the big popular names like the Pinot Grigio and the Chardonnay, and our favorite, the Sauvignon Blanc.
And we have a couple special, well, at least one special one tonight that you haven't had a chance to try. And it's a Russian sparkling.
All right.
So
we'll see how those Russians do.
Yes, we'll see if the Russians disappoint. But it's one that I have to admit I've had on the show a couple years back. You were not on the show at that time, and it wasn't a big hit. But you know what? I'm giving the Russians another chance because it's summer. And, you know, détente, right? So
yes.
let's see if the Russians can make us happy.
This is a peace offering to Vladimir Putin?
It is. Yes, well, I think we need more than that. But actually, let me give you a little pour here.
Okay.
So,
now, this is also the second time we've had a wine on the show. Or this is the first time we've had a wine on the show for
a repeat?
A second visit, yes.
It is, and you can give me some grief about that. But since you weren't on the show.
I missed that episode, so I'll actually give you a pass.
Okay. I appreciate that.
We try and give you all kinds of new wines on every episode, and I suspect at some point we'll come back and have a recap of some of our favorites. But this is the first time something's made a second appearance.
Well, we have some new viewers. We weren't around for that time. So what we have tonight is a Sovietsku Igrustu from Lithuania, and the grape varietal is three types. It's a Riesling, it's a Racatelli, and a Dimyat. Mm-hmm. And the region from Lithuania that this particular sparkling is from had been making wine for thousands of years prior to the revolution. And in around 1947, the Russians, Soviets, took over a lot of the vineyards that were in Russia and put them under state rule, of course. So this particular style was made from 1947. It's still being made the exact same way. Originally was made for, you're laughing at me over here, but it was made for Russian political dignitaries for when they had state-sponsored dinners, and also for the general populace for national holidays. So
this is what you get when you let the Soviets make your wine.
Well, we don't know. Like I said, this is exactly, as you can see, there's really no bubbles here.
That was the comment I was going to make is for a sparkling wine, this has almost no bubbles. There are a few just at the bottom here, and I'll let the camera zoom in on that. But you want bubbles to be rising and bringing flavor up to the nose, and you just don't have that with this.
So we could already say that the Russians should be calling this more of a Vino Verde than a sparkling.
Yes.
So there are.
I think that's a bit of a misnomer on their part.
It is, but maybe it'll taste good.
All right, we'll give this a shot.
Nostrovo.
I'm going to keep an open mind. This does remind me kind of a hard cider more than a sparkling wine.
It does. I mean, it's dry.
It's dry. It's got a heavy body.
I would disagree. I don't think the body is as heavy as I recalled from almost 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. And I haven't had this in that 2 years. So, I'm going in with this kind of fresh. My palate doesn't remember. The characteristics are of a very mild white, like maybe a Spanish type of wine. Actually, no, that's not correct either. This has a harshness to it that's a little burning a little bit.
Yeah, and that's why I get more of a kind of a really hard apple flavor from this, which is why it reminded me of an apple cider or a hard cider.
But is there a place for this on the picnic table?
I would do this more in the fall. If you're serving kind of the Thanksgiving meals or something, some kind of pumpkin.
Definitely on the cold side, though.
This reminds me of a late harvest kind of wine. Yeah.
I can see what you're going with that. I mean, I still think there might be a place for this in the summertime, but it has to be really chilled.
Yeah.
I think if this gets room temperature, it's not going to hold up very well. But much like the harshness of the Siberian Russian tundra, this particular sparkling has sort of been a little harsh on the palate.
Yes. And I noticed they didn't really get too original with the name either. They named it Sovietsky.
You know, it's funny you should mention that. They were keeping the bottle exactly as it looked when it came out in '47. Just, if you want to believe this or not, nostalgic reasons. So Sovietsku, I know they're still proud of that particular heritage at the time, but I think they do have to do a little work to improve the effervescence of this.
Well, it's if you want to throw back to 1947, there you go.
In a way, I could, yes, okay.
I'm not saying that's a good thing, but
That's pretty funny, actually, because I hate to really downplay this because there still might be a palate for this in our audience. It's not horrible.
yeah, I'm not going to give this a thumbs down. I'll give it a sideways thumb. I'm not crazy about it, but it's one of those wines that you want to try it just to say I've tried this.
And I got to say, it's an interesting bottle. If you do show up at a party with that, people are going to give you a double take and say,
Exactly.
"Oh, what's that?"
Yeah.
Now they might smack you at the end of the evening because it's crap, but at least it'd be a conversation piece.
That was my point exactly. It's a great conversation piece.
And it's different. That's what the show's about
Yeah.
tonight. So it's different types of wine. And I, like you, I'm going to give this a half a thumb. There's not a bitter or unpleasant aftertaste with this at all. So, I mean, you can't say it's a horrible wine. It's not making me want to take a drink of water or anything. I think this is really conducive to a really specific, maybe a few sips with something really specific, and that's pretty much it. You're not going to be sipping that all night.
Yeah.
So,
And that's something else we probably should have talked about is kind of a food pairing for this. Maybe that'll make this taste a lot better. But
which we do have some stuff tonight, which we'll pair with some of the other stuff. My glass is empty now, but we have some spicy food, which might be really interesting with some of the other whites that we're going to be tasting this evening. So,
real quick, what's the price point on this?
this is between $10 and $12. You can't find this everywhere. I found this in New Britain Liquor Depot because they have a large Polish population, a large ethnic population where they do a lot of importing, where people have a taste for this type of wine. So if you are interested in trying this, you're going to have to try an area where there's a large ethnic population and they have a store that's conducive to cater to them. So.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm glad you brought that on the show. I'm glad we got to try it.
I'm glad it's our first one. So.
Yes. Next up is a Gruner Veltliner. This is an obscure grape varietal which is probably going to explode onto the wine world scene in the next 5 to 10 years. It's grown in Austria, and you don't really see it sold outside of Austria in large quantities up until this point, but they're making a big marketing push to get it out there. I've had a couple. I've not had this one yet, but I've had a couple of really good ones in the last few months. And one of the reasons that it's going to explode, in my opinion, is it just pairs so well with just about everything you eat.
And by everything you mean, even in the summertime. So grilled food.
Yeah, grilled food, seafood. Some of them are a little heavier, and they would actually hold up to red meat. You could do some veal with this or some pork. If you're having a full-blown New York strip steak, you might want to skew towards a red.
It's got an interesting bouquet. I sort of like it off the bat. I'm smiling. It's nice to go to something a little bit more complex and sophisticated than our Russian bubbles.
Yeah, you get a lot of minerality with this. I get just a little lemon and a hint of white pepper.
Yeah, it's really good. And actually, this might be the one that won't want to try something like a spicy pepperoni or.
Sure, go ahead.
I think I'm going to go with the very hot beef jerky.
Now, I had some of this right before the show, the beef jerky. It's very spicy. So this should change the wine quite a bit. Tone down some
this
of
is the kind of food you'd be sitting out on the deck, in the summertime, having some appetizers or whatnot, drinking white wine.
Now, the great thing about Gruner Veltliner is that this is a white wine you can actually lay down for 10 or 15 years. If you think about a lot of the white wines you drink, they're meant to be consumed almost immediately. You can put them away for a year or two, in some cases stretch that out to 5, but you really need to consume those almost when you purchase them. With the Gruner Veltliner, this will store for 10 to 15 years.
Wow, that's unusual for a white. And I noticed that this is a 12.5% alcohol. Actually, the Russian, we'll just call it Vino Verde because it's not sparkling, was only about a 10.5, I think. Yeah. So the alcohol was a lot less than that.
So you get a little more kick with this.
You do. And the hot beef jerky, which is equivalent to a spicy jalapeno burger on the grill or a Dooley sausage, this worked very well with. It sort
Yeah.
of cut the spiciness, and it still had the characteristic of the wine which you're looking for. So I think all in all, at least for the beef jerky, very good. Very
Yeah,
nice.
so this will hold up to something really spicy. You know, if you were having a Pinot Grigio, it'd be wiped out by the jalapeno.
And we discussed that on the acidity show, right?
Yeah.
When you have something spicy, the acidity sort of.
You're looking for something higher in acidity, and that's usually you skew towards a Riesling if you're having like Thai food. But you could do the Gruner Veltliner. That would work very well with Thai food.
You know, I got to ask because if you're looking at the bottles on the table tonight, that bottle looks bigger than the other bottles for some reason. Is it just a visual illusion?
Yeah, that's just visual. It's still 750 milliliters.
Because if you look at these two bottles, yours definitely looks like there's more content in there than that one.
Yeah, it's probably not, the diameter's probably just a little off. Maybe that one's a little wider.
Because we never discussed that, but generally there's a certain standard for all bottles of wine in regards to.
Well, they're all 750 milliliters.
Yeah, okay.
But the shapes vary, and you'll see some crazy bottle shapes. I mean, usually it's a standard, something like this or something like this, but I've seen some crazy bottle shapes.
Actually, we've never even talked about why the bottle size is the way it is. I mean, we have to look into that to see what started that all those years ago.
Yeah, we'll have to do some research on that.
Because I've always been curious as to what the reason that's your standard bottle size, and of course we go up to bigger ones like Magnums or whatnot, more for champagne.
But it's still that bulge at the bottom and then narrow.
Very
narrow
interesting.
neck.
Well, this one's a thumbs up for me.
I love this. This is fantastic. And you might hear people talking in social circles about groovy wine, and what they're really talking about is Gruner Veltliner. That's the marketing push that they're trying to use to get people to start drinking Gruner Veltliner. But it's it's such a mouthful, and it's got the Germanic origins in the name that they're assuming that people really won't grasp onto it. So they're going to start calling it groovy, and that's taking the GRU from the first word and the VE from the second word. So if you hear anybody talking about groovy wine, it's Gruner Veltliner, and it's most likely going to come from Austria.
It's pretty hip too. I can
Yes.
see why they're going with the marketing aspect of it. And the price point on this one?
This particular bottle is in the $10 to $15 range. Some of the other ones that I've had have been in that same range, going up to $20. So it's a very affordable wine.
Sure is. And once again, it's also one you can store for a number of years.
Yeah, that's the great thing about it is, you find something you like right now, you can buy it and keep it for a long time.
It's funny. This is our second or third. Well, we've probably done. Who knows? A summer sipper show, and it's an interesting starting off point for these two wines because they're both so distinctly different, and they both would pair distinctly different with a lot of different food. But we're gonna notice how this one's still way off to the side because he hasn't earned sliding over yet. So we'll see what happens as the show goes on.
Should we just move them to the right as we drink them?
You know what? Yeah, let's introduce that. Maybe some of that characteristic will jump into the bottle and might taste a little better.
All right. Next up, we're going to have an Italian Verdicchio. Again, this is, tonight's topic is obscure whites. And when you think of Italian white wines, typically you think of Pinot Grigio. And I'm not a big fan of Pinot Grigio. It typically doesn't have a lot of flavor or body. It's just, it's flabby, it's watery. So you don't think of Italian whites as being very good. The Verdicchios are fantastic, and I've had a few of those in the last couple of months also, and I give them all thumbs up. These are wines that are grown in the northern part of Italy. They have a lot of acidity. You get this really golden color to them.
Very nice. Not much aroma though in the glass.
No, not a lot of nose with this. But I had, they pair very well with seafood. I had scallops last week and had a Verdicchio with that, and it was just phenomenal.
This is one of those whites that sort of coats you. Take your first sip, it sort of coats inside of your mouth. Mm-hmm. Has a very nice velvety feel to it.
Yeah. This has, and we're drinking these in a specific order tonight. I was trying to go, light body to heavier body. This is a little thicker in body, a little heavier, and that's that mouth coating feel that you're describing.
I'm going to try it with a piece of sharp cheese, which probably might not be a good pairing because it sort of has a sort of heaviness to it already. But
yeah, I would think something creamy would go really well with this.
I was wrong. It does go good with it.
It does it? All right, I will try that.
It goes very well with especially with the cheddar cheese, the sharp cheese. It goes very nice.
Yeah, it does. Good pair.
Yeah, very nice. And this once again, summer's in full swing. You're getting some ideas of some summer wines that you might want to try. Here's an example. Some people think, well, I can't drink a white wine with a cheese, but you're wrong. You can. It's really good. It's very, very good.
Oh, I do that all the time, and it's not necessarily Verdicchio. I've done that with Sauvignon Blanc, Chardonnay to a much lesser extent. 'Cause you and I don't drink a lot of Chardonnay, but yeah, you can do wine and cheese with white wines. Absolutely.
When we had Chuck Joseph on, did we have any white wine on that show? I don't remember if we had white wine on that show. I think it was mostly all reds.
I think it was. Yeah.
But there's an example where you can pair some white wines with cheese. So, and how did you find this particular one?
I was at the Urban Grape in Boston, and I was looking for a bottle that I'd had a couple of weeks ago, and they didn't have it, but they steered me towards this. So, my thanks to the Urban Grape. The staff there is phenomenal.
So you actually spent some time looking for really unique wines on this show tonight.
You know, we picked the topic, and I thought I'm gonna go out there and look for some really odd stuff. And I was trying to get a Sylvaner, which is another obscure grape variety you just don't find. And next time, yeah, maybe we'll do a whole other show on Sylvaners. But
okay, I've never heard of that one either. So, you know, it's interesting when we do a summer show on whites because there are so many different types of varietals, and to try to do something that's off the beaten path like we have here tonight is a little fun because most people haven't heard of these particular whites.
And that's what I love doing this show, is that, you know, we can go out and explore and find some good stuff and then bring that to you at home. You know, if we don't like it, we'll let you know. And if we find something fantastic, we can bring it in here and hopefully get you to go out and buy some too.
Well, as usual, Jim, my thumb's going up for one of your selections.
Give it a big thumbs up.
2 in a row. Only half a thumb for my Rushy, but maybe I'll get a thumbs up from you from our next.
We're going to give that a shot. But real quick though, the price point on the Verdicchio is $22 to $27.
So it's on the higher side.
It's a little more expensive, and it's above the price point that we like for this show. We try and stay under $20 here. But I thought, you know what, we're trying to show some examples of some obscure stuff, and that's.
Good point. Yep.
I bought a couple of different bottles of Verdicchio, and they were all in about the same price range. They're 22 to 27. So you're going to pay a little more for that Italian varietal.
And it's worth it because you're tasting something that your palate's not familiar with.
Yep.
So, and if we have a chance, we'll go back and we'll taste something spicy with all these. But let's get the last one in. And here's another repeat that you weren't on the show for last year actually. It's a Corbières Blanc Les Deux Rives. It's from the southern region of France. I had this for my parents' big anniversary party back last August. I actually had 5 cases of this. I gave out, these were some of the party favors to all the guests at the party. Mm-hmm. And I kept 6 bottles for myself at the end. And I have 3 left. So you weren't on the show when I had this. I had my aunts on the show tasting this. They weren't crazy about it because they're Chardonnay gals. But I wanted to try it because when I tasted it, which is the reason I went with this as a party favor, I thought it was a really good wine. There's a lot of herbaceousness in here. There's a lot of minerals in here. And it's still a good summer sipper. It's not too heavy.
So you tried this and then decided to go out and buy 6 cases.
Yeah, because the price point was reasonable. And if you're going to have a big party and you want to give somebody a favor, you have to think logically,
Yeah.
I'm not Donald Trump.
Right.
So it's got to fit a price point, and it's also got to be a quality that's going to be acceptable to most people. And I thought this fit the grill.
I love giving wine as a gift, and if I were to go out and buy 6 cases, I would be shopping for something very reasonable as well. So I think that was smart on your part.
So this is a blend. Once again, it's 60% Grenache, it's a 20% Marsanne, and a 20% Rousseau. And it's a very soft acidity, at least in my opinion, which is why I like it. So I'm going to give it another taste here.
Yeah, after the Verdicchio, this just kind of drops right off.
It sure does.
There's no acidity to this at all after having something with a lot of acidity.
It's actually another good comparison. But this is an example where something like that, which should be chilled a little bit more maybe than what we're drinking at this current temperature, but there's still enough complexity in here, which I think would be interesting to sit and have a sip or two on a porch if you're talking to a bunch of people and having a few appetizers. I think the Grenache is important because I think without the Grenache, it would just die.
Yeah.
The Grenache gives it a little bit of a fruitiness that's necessary in this particular way.
I get a very strong grape juice component off of this. And normally you drink wine and it's made from grapes, but you don't get a grape taste. And that's what really jumps out at me here is that heavy grape flavor coming out.
But certainly not heavy enough where it's going to sit in your mouth on a hot summer day. I mean, it's technically a summer sipper. That's what it's sold as.
Yeah, it's not lingering. It's it's there and then it's gone. But
in the tasting notes of this one, Jim, here's one I've never heard before: wet stone.
That's related to minerality. People will say they often use one or the other. But you think about it, you got a rock wet and then put that in your mouth, that's what this is going to taste like.
Yeah. When we make these comments, I know there's some people out there saying, what the heck are they talking about, whetstone? But if you think about it, it does make sense.
Yeah.
Because, you're not actually putting a rock in your mouth. But if you could, there's that, like you said, the minerality that you would get if you put a rock in your mouth. There's not the alcohol in the rock, though.
Yeah.
So,
but there are so many tasting notes that come up when you're looking at wine, and you think to yourself, well, did that person ever really go out and eat grass and then describe wine as being grassy? That's not how that works. They just, they're working off the flavor, the smell that they're getting off of that. And you walk out in your front lawn after you've mowed it, you get that grassy smell.
Perfect example.
You get that out of a glass of wine, that same kind of smell or same kind of taste.
And you could also say if you're at the beach and there's rocks and the rocks are wet after the tide goes out, you get a certain odor from anything that's a stone that has some wetness or humidity on it. So
so this is all based on odors or smells and not people putting wet rocks in their mouth.
Though you can if you want to, just don't swallow. If you don't mind, I'm going to try a little bit more of my Les du Rives, and I want to see how this pairs with something spicy. So I'm going to go back to the very spicy beef jerky.
Yeah, that jerky had such a kick to it, so it really does need a big wine to stand up to it. And I think this would be a good one. This is kind of heavy. Really? Did that die?
No, actually it works.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't work as good as one of the other ones we've had, but this is another perfect example of when we're doing a summer show like this and we have white wines. A lot of these whites, if you're eating something hot or spicy, it really complements the food. It doesn't overwhelm your palate. It sort of tames the spiciness in your mouth. So I think it's a good choice.
And did you give the price point on this?
This one, remember I bought a large quantity of this for occasion. Individually, the bottle prices range from $9 to $12.
Okay.
Which to me is a fantastic price.
Very affordable. Yeah.
For not just affordable, it's a good quality French obscure type of wine that you might not be familiar with. So I didn't want to just give some people barefoot and bubbly for a gift.
Yeah.
So to find something this obscure and this, in my opinion, good, I thought was kind of pleasant. And it still tastes just as good as I remember it, so I still like it a lot. So I'm going to give it a thumbs up, even though I'm biased.
All right. I'm going to give it a half thumb.
Oh, half thumb. Oh, my God.
I don't hate it. I don't.
That hurts. That's 2 half thumbs. I think I've never had 2 bottles of half thumbs before. I'm never going to hear the end of this, guys. Trust me, I will never hear the end of this. But that's okay. This happens every once in a while. But I'd still buy more if I saw it.
I wouldn't blame you for doing that.
Okay. Well, thank you, Jim. Yeah. So before we take another sip, I just want to, Jim and I want to wish Jatu Huntley the best because he will be leaving WHC-TV.
Now let's explain. Jatu is the producer for this show.
He is.
He's been with us the entire 4 years we've been doing this show.
And, I get a little choked up thinking about it because he's done such a great job on our show.
Our show would not look anywhere near as good as it does if it weren't for the hard work that Jatu does behind the camera. And after we're done filming, he's doing a lot of work in post-production.
He is, and he's been a great asset to WHC-TV, and I know they're going to miss him. He'll still be around in some aspects, I think, just helping out or stopping by. But he's going to ESPN, and, it's a great move for him, and I know he's going to excel there just like he did at WHC-TV. So, Jatu, thanks again for all the hard work you've done.
We're going to miss you.
We will. So I had to get that in there. So let's taste something with maybe something else while we still have time on the show.
All right.
I want to try the jalapeno chip, which I think might pair well with your German.
All right, do it.
All right.
And I'm going to go back to your Russian sparkling, or not so sparkling. Shock!
I don't know what to say to this. You know what? I'm going to join you then because I did not see that coming.
And that's just because I want to see how this works in conjunction with a couple of different things you've got here. So I'll start with the cheese.
I'm really pushing the Russian sparkling because I think there still is a place for it. So maybe I'll try cheese. I didn't try the cheese with it.
Well, that brings out the fruit in the wine. This is a lot fruitier now.
Oh, it's completely different.
Yeah.
God, I love this show, and I love drinking wine. And this is one of the reasons because, and we've talked about this so many times over the last 4 years or whatever, when you eat something and you drink the right wine or the wrong wine, it's a whole different experience in your mouth. And that's actually pleasurable.
It is, and that's why I always talk about use Chianti as an example. When I go to wine tastings and they're tasting Italian Chiantis and Sangioveses, they usually don't taste very good on their own. But if you pair them with the right foods, and it's typically something from the Mediterranean area, some kind of tomato base, something with a lot of acidity, the Chiantis really just open up, and it's a completely different experience.
So to save my ego a little bit, to make my Russian sparkling look good, try it, buy it, but if you're going to give it to your friends, pair it with some cheese, a sharp cheese like this, or something spicy. Make sure they eat it, and I think they'll enjoy it.
I bet you could even do a caviar with this, which is probably exactly what the Russians made this for.
Something very salty.
Yes.
You're absolutely right. Never
All
thought
that
of that.
salt and the caviar go very well with this.
So we're down to our last 2 minutes, Jim. Summer's in full swing. What the heck you got planned up in Boston? Any more wine tastings?
Plenty of wine tastings. 90 Plus was a guest of ours on the show. They have a lot of events in Boston coming up this summer. They've got a barbecue by the river. They'll actually be here in Hartford for an outdoor, was it a food cart show that you were telling me about?
Yes, I believe so.
Is that in Constitution Plaza? Or?
Probably, yeah. 90 Plus has really been putting themselves out in a lot of places lately.
Yeah, they've got a lot going on this summer. I'll be spending a few weeks in Maine, so I will try a whole bunch of wines from the northern area.
That should be interesting.
Maybe get some Canadian stuff.
I do expect some interesting stories there, because I don't know, does Maine even manufacture any wine?
I don't know.
I don't think so, that I'm aware
I
of.
don't know.
Well, you have to look into
I'm going
that.
to find out.
But, it's still tough to lose you too.
Yeah.
But summer is going strong when you guys see this show, and please feel free to try these wines. And if you have any questions, like I said, always feel free to contact us on
Oh, yeah.
Facebook page.
We still have our Facebook page up, so if you have a question or comment for the show, please friend us on Facebook and then send us your message through Facebook, and we'll answer it here on the show. You can like us on Facebook or share us on Facebook. And don't forget, you can watch previous episodes of this show on WHTCV.
That's never happened before.
WHCTV.
Yes, there we go.
.org.
See, it's summertime.
Yeah, that just rolls off the tongue usually, and tonight it didn't.
And if anybody wants to be a guest on our show to join us, feel free to make a request, because we're always trying to get different people on the show to taste something that they're not familiar with, or just give something to
Yeah,
share.
we have a lot of fun tailoring a show around a specific topic or a person and what their interests are. So I think some of our better shows have been when we've had a guest on with kind of a unique little spin we could take.
I agree.
Could go down.
I agree. So, Jim, thanks again for coming down from Boston and joining me. And
Cheers.
till everybody, have a great summer. And until next time, keep Jim and I in your wine cellar.